Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fringe North podcast. I'm Caitlin. I am the lead coordinator for this year's festival, and I have with me here today Kim Kitchen. So, Kim, would you like to just introduce yourself to the audience and let them know a little bit about who you are?
Yes, I'm Kim Kitchen from North Bay, having lived in several wonderful places throughout the country and have settled here on the shore of Lake Nipissing. Yes, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist, been working full time at my practice for many years, up until 6 years ago uh, when I became very ill with rheumatoid disease.
Mhm.
And that really changed my life drastically. And that's what this work that I'm talking about today is really all about.
Yeah. So, how did that shift your approach to art when you faced that struggle?
Well, I was bedridden for 3 years.
Mhm.
Um, I have a puppy here who is talking to his mama. So
Oh,
sorry for the
that's all good.
interruptions. Mama's always being called. Anyhow, yes. So when rheumatoid came to me, it came in a very severe way, and
Mhm.
I was bedridden for the next 3 years. So I went from, full time in my studio, painting, sculpture, installation, performance, to really not being able to do anything at all. And a very good friend of mine in that the end of that first year of being, not having no mobility, not the use of my hands, walk, nothing. Like it was really quite a difficult time.
Mhm. For sure.
Um, she brought me a little Zoom audio recorder and, just really encouraged me to talk into this recorder, which of course I could do from my bed, and record my environment, the sounds around, because my husband and we were living in in what was our dream home, 17 acres in the bush. We'd been there 15 years. We had created quite a homestead. We were self sufficient in growing our own food and cutting our own wood and heating our home. And we had friends coming from all about the world visiting. And yeah, we were just, it was just really an incredible time.
Mhm.
And I was exhibiting throughout the country and, just like I was traveling the world. I had lots going on, lots going on. And so this changed everything
Mhm.
overnight, right?
Yeah, of course.
Um, and so, you know, this this gift of my dear friend who brought me this recorder, really it it became very much like a daily ritual where I just talked into this recorder and not thinking that I would, use these kind of, notes, this daily running journal into anything. But at year three, I tried many different treatments. I was seeing a rheumatologist in Barrie, and everything I tried wasn't having any positive outcomes. And then um, he offered to me to try this drug Rituxan, which it's a form of a chemo drug. And this is the drug that really I received this infusion every 6 months, 7-hour infusions. And this is what got me walking again and able to function, somewhat. My life has never been the same, of course. It's very different. I
Yeah.
am definitely a disabled artist, and I say that, I say that warmly because it is what it is. And, for me to be able to function in the world, I'm in need of interdependence. I make art now with teams of assistants around me, and it's just always really important to state what your needs are, right?
For sure.
So, this whole process, I mean, I talk about it briefly with you, but, it. there of course is a lot of grieving and a lot of transformation, and it all takes time, and it's all very shocking, and
Mhm.
all of those things, right? And so out of this came my decision to apply for an Ontario Council grant, which I did um, for a mentorship in learning more about audio. And when that happened and I received that grant, I had a wonderful mentor who came to my house every couple weeks. And we just started pulling out all of the audio that I had recorded, um, to just experiment with and learn from, like,
Mhm.
editing, and we talked about capturing and like all this stuff, because I knew nothing of audio. And that went on for a year. And at the end of this year, I had this really incredible story that had been put together. And so then I applied for another grant to take it into production. And so yes, my art practice has changed to really suit my capacity now, my
Mhm.
both physical and mental capacity in making work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and if you don't mind me sharing, I actually was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, which is a rheumatoid disease
Right.
as well, 2 years ago, and so I know the struggles of being bedridden and um, trying to find treatment that works. And it's just amazing to see you be able to persevere through that and to find ways of using art in this uh, new way compared to what you were doing before. And that's just it's so, as someone who's very early on in that journey, it gives me such hope and it gives me such inspiration to see what is possible. And even though things are never quite what they were before, there are new ways and new advantages too, I would say, in terms of approaching things from these different lights. And uh, yeah, like how cool is it that you got to be able to get that grant and learn about audio. And uh, yeah, in light of kind of where I'm coming from and hearing your story, how do you find, because I know like you said, it can be such a struggle, and in terms of just adjusting with to that frustration of things that you used to be able to do, and how do you approach that in new ways, and bring that hope into your art, and to get through those patches of that frustration and having to do things differently than before and learning how to adjust that.
Well, this is a daily, sometimes hourly challenge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
I'm so glad you shared that. And, the struggle is so real, right?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think, we are raised in a social setting, in a culture that really sees illness as, if you have it, you have to do everything to get better.
Mm.
And, everybody just wants to believe there's these fix-its, right?
Mhm.
Um, and even our own lack of knowledge, our ignorance about such things like rheumatoid. I don't call it rheumatoid arthritis because millions of people in the world who have rheumatoid have wanted the name changed to be rheumatoid disease, because as we who have it know, it's more like MS and lupus, and it
Mhm.
affects all of our organs. The doctor who named it was, misguided. He thought it was
Yeah.
arthritis. It's not. Arthritis is just one symptom of it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So those of us who have it, and in such severe ways, um, that treatments don't necessarily always work, or create outcomes that are, um, it it has made me so much better, and I'm so grateful, right?
Mhm.
But I'm in my bed a lot,
Yeah.
as you know,
Yeah.
because I'm sure you're in your bed a lot. And, I am a 59-year-old. I've been healthy and active my whole life, living in the bush. We had to sell our dream home and we moved into town, and we're living an urban lifestyle now. And, like everything had to change, right?
Mhm.
And for me, if I would have stayed in that environment where, I could no longer be out on the land, I could no longer work alongside my partner, I couldn't be out in my art studio, I, was isolated you know, because I was out in the bush, um, I wouldn't have been living my potential,
Mm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so as difficult and as sad and as sorrow filled and grieving is the process of change, it also has put me in a place of, accessibility. I'm in town, I have an electric wheelchair, I have, a wheelchair that I can take with me on the go. Like, I have now all of my needs because I didn't deny myself that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, initially people, it's really hard when this happens. We go, do I really need a wheelchair? Like, is that really me? You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's the acceptance.
Yeah.
And then comes this place, this time of surrender, right? And I think until you've been, in that place of being that ill and that incapacitated, you can't really ever understand, that surrender is a really wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has like that bittersweet, like
You're
it's
right.
so much good in it too, but we get so caught up in looking at the negative that we can't always see past to the benefits and the positive, and to just let go and be able to just,
Yeah,
like you said, surrender. It's such a powerful thing, really.
it really is. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, there's still days and I mean, because every day is different for me, it's like the box of chocolate. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just don't, they're not even named. They don't have names these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, just this past week, as I prepare, to go out onto an island in Lake Nipissing with a team of artists who are assisting me to make a body of work, I am faced with fatigue that feels like 10 wet wool blankets that have been put over me,
Mm-hmm.
and so i'm trying I'm trying just to be in the still and to surrender and rest and trust that by next Monday I will board that boat and be ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm still experiencing this, well, I have all the people I need around me who will, be compassionate and caring. And now I hire support people to do my running and to get this and to feed me. Like, um it's just a whole other way. But I am, however, feeling so grateful to be living my potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And it's so wonderful to be able to live in that space. And in terms of like how you engage with art, because you had mentioned earlier that not only is there like physical differences, but also like the mental, it's just a different, I guess, angle that you're coming at it from. And like, I know for me, just like having that drainage and tiredness sometimes, and you never know when it's going to hit. How do you incorporate that into your art? And uh, how do you feel like it's benefited your art and made it different and unique compared to what you were doing before?
Well, I realized after 2 years of being in bed, and the second year, my daughter and her wife moved a single bed down into the living room where we had built this little jet out and it was all glass windows, and they put my bed in there. Um, and I laid there for the next 2 years, and I was looking up at the underside of branches, and I was watching life happen in a perspective that I'd never watched, right? Because I'd never been kind of underneath, you know, and consistently for hours, every day, looking up the tree underneath and seeing all that was going on, right? And it just became such a metaphor for me. Um, that has stayed really, really prominent in my mind, right? So I I can be still, like never before, and know that, I'm creating so much is going on in my being artistically,
Mm-hmm.
that when I do have the energy and the capacity to get up and make, it just happens because
Yeah.
it's already there,
Yeah,
you
like
know?
all that planning piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
The envisioning and the seeing it so clearly. And
hmm
yeah,
yeah, that's an interesting thing because I think with art, it's like an iceberg, right? There's so much that um, people often just see the doing portion that's like the tip of the iceberg, but there's so much of that planning and conceptualizing and all those different pieces
oh
that
my
go
God,
on.
the research, I
Mhm.
mean, my research has gone to whole other levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, looking at other artists and, going back in time, and yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, in terms of the audio piece, because I know you had said that you, uh, I guess weren't as familiar with like our audio approaches before, and how do you incorporate audio into your art now in new ways?
So for me, it's very experimental. Uh, it's about storytelling. It's about soundscape. It's right. It's creating this, kind of this feeling that you can see it all,
Hmm.
by listening, right? And really now I've stepped into film. So, audio was that kind of first, that big project of transition, which I am so, so, so proud of. And, the people that assisted and worked on this project with me. And wow, this is the piece that I'm submitting, titled Able to Disabled, My Changing Landscape. It's 26 minutes, and it is spoken word and soundscape together. Um, and it now also has a film aspect to it, because my intention from the beginning was to make it as accessible as possible.
Hmm.
So it has ASL.
Nice.
Yeah,
That sounds fantastic.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what are you hoping that individuals who attend Fringe North this year will gain from the experience of engaging with this piece of work that you've created?
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, it's about hope, right? It's
Hmm.
about reconfiguration
Hmm.
and re-identifying, and this happens throughout our lives, of course. And again, we really culturally reject, aging and, our bodies changing and wearing out and all of that. And so for me, um, that's what I hope this work is, inspires.
Hmm.
So many people who are disabled are living in such isolation,
Yeah.
especially before COVID.
Yeah. That
COVID for most of us
it's a
really
benefit.
didn't change, right? It really
Hmm.
didn't change. And
Hmm.
the thing that it did was it opened up all these avenues virtually that
Hmm.
were never open before. And mainstream society demanded that when COVID hit, because they wanted it. They didn't, in all our kind of advocacy and talk of, inviting everyone to the table, that's not happened by
Hmm.
will. Mainstream needed to be connected when COVID hit. And so they created this whole world of us being able to attend everything online,
Hmm.
which of course has benefited us in the disabled community greatly, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And
And so one of the things I always say is, when we do get back to being able to come together physically, we need to keep this going as the
hmm
as
yeah.
as the alternative way to attend,
Hmm. For
right?
sure.
Like it must not end.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like for so many people they don't get it. Like for me, I was feeling so isolated, more isolated prior to COVID, and then all these avenues opened up, and it's like such a blessing in many ways. Like I'm obviously not happy that there's a pandemic and people are unfortunately dying, but like to look on the bright side too, like it's connected individuals with disabilities in ways that we couldn't be connected before, and that is a huge blessing. And
It really
yeah.
is. It
Mhm.
really, really is. Yeah. And so that's what I hope, because as you know, it is a fine line of that we stay very realistic of where we are in our bodies and our
Mhm.
minds and our capacity. And, you know, we stay connected in the dance of hope, right? So when I say surrender, you know, some people would respond to that to be like, well, you have to fight. You know,
Mm.
you have to keep going. When you surrender, it sounds like you're giving up, right?
Yeah.
But those of us who have been in this place know that it's not about that at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's about peace and ease
Mhm.
and acknowledgement and embrace and not feeling less than, you
Mhm.
know, and being realistic, right?
Yeah.
Because hope is a wonderful thing, but if you're always hoping to be different, that
It's
that
not
doesn't work.
no, yeah.
That doesn't work, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's a fine dance.
Mhm. For sure. And I think too, like you said, like so many people view it as, oh, sorry, my phone's going off. My bad.
Okay.
Apologize for that. Um, yeah, it's like that idea that really it takes more strength to surrender than it does to keep fighting, in many ways. So it's that balance of uh, seeing when and I think it's a form of fighting actually, that people don't view it as a form of fighting, but to learn how surrender, like there is a struggle process and a fight to be able to get to the point of surrender. So
Exactly.
we put it in these dichotomies when really it's like surrender is such a beautiful part of fighting, and it's part of that fight.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time and for coming on today. I really appreciate it and getting to hear about your work and um, yeah, your involvement with Fringe North this year. And uh, yeah, it's just beautiful to be able to spend some time together and talk about it. So thank you.
Well, thank you
Mm,
so much, you
mm.
know?
Yeah. Before we close off, is there anything else that you would like the viewers to know about your piece or about how they can support you as an artist?
Well, attend Fringe
Mm,
North. I'm excited. I'm
mhm.
really excited to see what you're all doing this year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is another reality of COVID, right? You know, artists being able to share their work in whole other ways,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for participating in the festival, and we're excited to have you on board for this year.
Okay,
Right.
great.
All right, so everyone, you can check out Kim's work at the festival this year, which is running from August 19th to 22nd. And hope you have a great day and that you enjoyed this time together. Bye. Thank you for watching our podcast. Merci, miigwech, gracias. If you like what we're doing, you can support Fringe North and the artists involved in this year's festival financially so that we can continue this work. Visit www.fringenorth.ca to find out more.